So, welcome to my session, Salesforce and IBM for Developers. My name is René Winkelmeier. I work as a developer evangelist with Salesforce. And I'd like to go with you through some possible integration scenarios, how you can connect both worlds. Over the last couple of months, since we announced a partnership, I work with several teams across IBM and Salesforce to craft a developer story for our customers, for our developers. And they touch three areas: weather, Watson, and app integration. And you will see what you can do with those today. For me, it's interesting first to know who's already using Watson or weather or MQSeries in their company. A few. One. Cool. So, first of all, most important, forward-looking statement, right? Whatever you see here, please make your purchasing decisions based on what is currently available in our products. I can't speak for third-party products, but please make a purchasing decision based on that. So, Salesforce and IBM. This was really interesting for me when that got announced in February this year, especially as I have a strong background in IBM technology, and I was looking into several options how you can integrate now data that you have in Salesforce or functionality that you have in Salesforce with an example on-premises data, using IBM Watson Discovery, for example. Or if you have MQSeries in-house, which is a standard IBM on-premises message queue system, how you can connect that seamlessly and in real time to events that happen in your Salesforce org. So, and those are the areas that I'm going to cover now. First of all, I will talk a bit about Einstein and Watson. Please bear with me, I'm German, so I say Einstein, as real people say it, right? Well, is Einstein and Watson. My colleagues always have to bear with me about that. Then we will talk also about weather integration capabilities. Weather is a real interesting topic, in my opinion, for business processes. And we will talk a bit about the IBM integration suite. And who's a developer here? Please raise your hand. We will see code, right? It's not death by PowerPoint. So the very first thing I'm going to talk about is about weather. Who has field service in their company where appointments need to get scheduled? A couple of people. So imagine a scenario, and I had that, I think, in April in Amsterdam, where I talked with a customer. And they had field service that had appointments, let's say in a week, a fitting company. They had windows, and they're crafting windows, and those need to get fitted at the customer sites. But they had always the issue, like the appointment got scheduled, but, oh no, it was a rainy day, so the windows couldn't get fitted. So how could they optimize it? Well, the weather integration that they then added to their Salesforce org, also using Process Builder, helped to automate that process. So once the contract got signed and the appointment got first scheduled for in 2 weeks, a day before the appointment happens, a Process Builder process kicks off, checks, is in that area good weather or bad weather? And if it's bad weather, the sales representative gets contacted via a chatter post to reschedule the appointment, right? Because that's a happy customer, right? No one is driving out and doing this. So weather, real interesting use case. Let's see what you can do with it. So IBM has two offerings. First of all, it's important to mention that the weather data is provided by the weather company. It's an IBM company, and they have two different kinds of data sets available. First of all, and that is what you see here on screen, is the offering on the Bluemix platform. It is a standard set where you can get the current weather for a region, for a zip code, weather alerts, observation data, and we will drill down into some more. There's also a specific business package by the weather company for Salesforce customers that gives you also a richer data set and also proactive information. We're using here the Bluemix example because I think it's, as a developer, when you first want to start with something, you want to first have, the simple part, and you don't want to pay for that, right? So Bluemix has a free set of calls, and if you like it, if you want more, you can go to the weather company and, well, get the better APIs. So if we drill down into this, let's say with the weather alerts, you will see a rich set of capabilities to get the data in example alerts for a specific latitude, longitude data, which is really interesting in the Salesforce context because using the data.com synchronization, you can automatically get the longitude and longitude data added to account records or, in example, to contacts, right? We automatically and for free provide that. So this is a really good use case. Once there's an address and a zip code in such an object, we automatically enrich that. So you have directly for that area the specific geolocation available. And you can get a bunch of more data, daily forecast, hourly forecast, intraday, and so forth. The question is now, how would you integrate that? So the very simple example that I'm going to spin up now is a sales rep, they like to talk to customers. I've been told that they like to do that. And weather seems to be a topic that everyone is talking about, right? I mean, who doesn't like to talk about the weather? Mostly complaining, at least in Germany, about that. So let's take the Winkelmeyer Corp over here. And imagine the account executive should now see somewhere here weather data. Right? So you have two options. Either you build that on your own in a custom Lightning component, or B, and this is a quite new offering by the weather company, you get their free App Exchange app to edit here. I'm a developer, so I build it on my own. Right? So I rarely buy stuff. I do it always on my own. So I'm going into App Builder and just going to add the component. And then later on that, we will dig into the Lightning and in the Apex code to make that happen. So I have here a component that says weather, longitude, latitude data. We are saving it. And who would have imagined I'm now getting weather data for that area. Very simple, today's forecast. It's cloudy in that area. I live there, just saying. Right? So this is standard weather in Germany in the area where I live. The most rainy area of Germany, to be specific. But who gets that? So we have a custom Lightning component which uses some standard Apex callouts to fetch the weather data. So how are we doing this? Let's go to Developer Console and dig into this. That's good enough. So I want to highlight three things. First of all, resolve geolocation, the method that I'm using here. As I mentioned before, there's an automated process available, data integration in any Salesforce org that can attach geolocation data to, for example, a contact object, an account object, or a lead. And then you have latitude and longitude data for that available for free, which you then can use in the weather calls. So what I'm doing in this method is I'm detecting which kind of object is it, so that I can then grab the field, which are the fields that hold longitude and longitude data. And from there, it's quite straightforward. As I mentioned before, it's just a REST API that you can fetch. So what I'm doing here is I'm first resolving the geolocation. Let's see if I can zoom in for the last row. So resolve the geolocation based on my previous method to then grab longitude and latitude data. And then I'm just executing a simple HTTP callout where I'm passing both data as parameters to the URL. And what I'm getting back is a standard JSON. So as I like to develop object-oriented, I mean, who doesn't like that, right? OOP, so real development. We are not using just a simple JSON in this example. So I'm using a JSON parser, to cast the returned JSON in a proper Apex class, which we can then reuse in a Lightning component. So in this example, I have weather observation data, and there are multiple examples for, here for example, the get weather 3-day forecast. So how does it look in Lightning? I have my IBM weather longitude and latitude data, and here are a couple of things to obey. First of all, the Lightning component needs to know which kind of object it is in, right? Because I just dragged my custom Lightning component in there. And for calling the weather API and for knowing which object it is so that we can then retrieve the fields for the geolocation, we have to specify force has record ID so that our record page automatically passes our record ID to the custom Lightning component. And from there on, it's just straightforward by loading the data via a standard controller. Here I'm just using the helper getWeather method. And the only thing I'm really doing here is calling my getWeather observations controller, so my Apex method, which then is doing the Apex callout. So this is just for UI, right? I mean, that's no magic, no black magic. You can do this quite easily with any call. Really interesting is when you, for example, put that into Process Builder. And this really fits to the use case that I had before. I mean, having the weather displayed in the UI is one thing, but executing based on weather conditions in an automated process is really interesting. So and you may think, but we have no use case. I mean, if you're a software company, you likely don't have a use case, but if you have anything with manufacturing, delivery, or else, weather can affect your business. And this is where this comes into the game. So what I'm just doing here is I have a simple invocable method which checks the weather before the fitting appointment. So my fitting appointments object, I'm passing it in with my dates. And for every fitting appointments, the weather controller has the check weather forecast for fitting. So if we drill down into this one, which is not really different, it is exactly the same code that gets used in the custom Lightning component, right? I mean, it's not more. It's just an HTTP callout for this, right? I'm evaluating bad weather conditions, like is it raining, windy, and so forth. And if I'm not getting back anything that represents a bad condition, just a simple chatter post gets posted to, in this example, the fitting account object. So weather, a nice, interesting use case. We have some more examples up and running on Heroku. So what you also can do is just fetch that and put that into a Postgre database and to run that on millions of data sets, because no one wants to run that on 50,000 account objects in an org, right? So you can use Heroku, very good for any outsourcing. If you want to look into this in real life, there's also a blog on developer.salesforce.com that I've got published, which includes all the source code exactly for this use case, right? You just can put that into any org of your choice, get the weather API keys from IBM Lumix, and have this simple example up and running. So really interesting is now the second part. As I said, we're not going to be death by PowerPoint, so I just showed you we're talking about Watson. Right? That's the only slide that I'm going to show about this topic. So Watson is a really broad topic. Is someone using Watson technology at the moment here? A couple. Okay. So Watson has different capabilities ranging from Watson discovery to language translation, up to conversation services, and many more. And you can integrate them in multiple ways. First is you can write your own Apex code. Second, you can write the newly released SDK written by IBM for Watson Discovery in Apex. Or third, you can use Watson, and this is a use case that I really like, with federated search. And we just dig into this. So who knows what federated search is? A couple of. Are you using federated search in a Salesforce org? So this is a capability that we introduced in summer 17, where you can connect external data providers that provide a specific schema and include their search results into the global search box. So like you know this from account, like when you look up for Winkelmeyer, I can get my account, I can get my user, standard search for a user. What I can also do here is I can say I want to search objects from Watson Discovery in my Salesforce org directly as a user without writing a single line of code. So if I look now for some results, I'm getting now search results displayed in Salesforce, served by IBM Watson Discovery. So for those who don't know what Discovery is, it's a service where you can throw in loads of unstructured data, and it then allows you to query the data, to analyze the data with entities, keywords, and many other things. So many companies use that to structure their data that they have in file systems or in white papers and many other areas. And this is a really good example where you can integrate that into the interface of your users. I mean, it's not limited to Watson Discovery. You can technically do that with every other API, but I think the Watson Discovery use case is really, really impressive here. So how does it work? Federated search is a new specification, or a specification that we integrated using external objects. So what I have here is I have a Roku app running, a simple Node.js app, and it's providing an XML file. And this XML file follows the open search specification. And I want to highlight two things here. First, it points again to the same app with a URL where it can issue the actual federated search query on. Like when, as a user, I'm searching for something, like Winkelmeyer, IBM, Salesforce. This is what gets passed to the Node.js app. The second part is that I have a record type here, Watson Discovery. In this case, federated search creates automatically an external object in my org, which I can then use for search and in sourceable queries. Which then means I can use or query Watson Discovery not only from the user interface, from the global search box, but also just from my Apex code. So I can even automate with data from the system based on that. So let's go back and see what the return data is. So this is the XML that got automatically created. And what's happening here is that the Node.js app holds the credentials for the Watson service. And first, Salesforce hits the Node.js app. The Node.js app queries Watson because it's a REST API that doesn't conform to OpenSearch. And the Node.js app then sends back the transforms XML. We have, for this example, also on developer.salesforce.com a blog post, and since last Thursday, a complete new Trailhead project. So if you want to look into this, if you want to integrate with Watson Discovery, we just released a complete new project for that. Also for weather, I have to mention, we released a project integrating IBM Weather with Salesforce. So let's go back to our Salesforce org. Watson Discovery, as mentioned, real nice, but there are also other Watson services. And this is a very simple example is language translation. I mean, who is not getting emails or has emails in their org especially when you're an international company in a language that your people don't speak, right? I mean, I'm from Germany, and I see emails in French. I don't speak French. I speak Dutch, but not French. I see emails in Spanish. I don't understand them. So, and that may happen, especially in an international company, right? When you have all your email data harvested, for example, using Lightning for Gmail or for Outlook. So how can you then incorporate that for your salespeople? So, and in this case, I just added a very simple Lightning action that helps me to translate my email with IBM Watson. Could be a very simple example, but very powerful for your users. So I have here my email. It's already from April, so a bit old. I say translate with IBM Watson, and what's happening now here is A, I'm using Watson to detect in which language is the email, and second, it translates the email into my language that I have set on my computer, right? So a sales rep can easily use that to automatically translate any kind of email. And you can use that for every other text, so even PDF documents, HTML documents. It's technically the same like Google Translate, just a bit more powerful. So even if I want to have this in Spanish, I think it's supported, so I can even write my emails now in Spanish. I'm not trying it with French, just because of. So how can you do this? Well, same example, and it's really similar to what I did with the Weather API. Also here, it is just a simple call out to the IBM service on Language Translator, and you just post in the text that you have, the text from your source language, like DEDE for German, and the language as target language that you want to have translated. It's not more than just those few lines of code to integrate Watson as an external service into your Salesforce org. The last point, or going to the next part, is the app integration. Sorry, I missed one part. Sorry. If you want to dig into more what you can do with Watson and Salesforce, as I said before, this is a completely newly announced IBM Watson SDK. You'll find that on github.com/watson-developer-cloud/Salesforce SDK. It has the same quality as the Node or Python or Go or Unity SDK. I worked with IBM over the last couple of weeks on making that available. Currently, it includes IBM Watson Discovery and IBM Watson Conversation as services. We are very curious to learn from you all what the next service should be that IBM should add to the SDK. We want to make it easier for our customers to use the Watson services within Salesforce. So create an issue on that, or go to developer.salesforce.com. We have an announcement blog post for this, and comment what next Watson service should be provided by IBM for Apex developers. Really important for us. So, platform events and MQSeries. Who knows what platform events are? Finally, so many hands. Awesome. Who is using already platform events? More hands, please. Okay, so platform events are really great. I mean, you can create events in a pub, sub, bus system in Salesforce, right? You just publish, you can subscribe, it doesn't persist. This is really great. Next year at the same time, I want to have that the room raises all hands when I say who's using them already, right? So the question is, how does it work? Or how does it make sense to integrate that with IBM technology? So what is really, really great is that IBM created for their MQSeries product, which is often used on premises as a message queue system, to integrate that directly and native with platform events. I mean, even in today's world, not everything is in the cloud, right? Large companies have still a lot on premises. So the question is, how can you effectively connect those hybrid architectures? And the combination of platform events and MQSeries is really powerful. So let's put that also into an example. Who saw our developer keynote a couple of minutes ago? That's me with the green wig, by the way. So, and we had there our product bundle example, if you recall that, right? Soaps and lotions. I can still do this. And just create a soap and a lotion in here. So, and our example was the Node.js app on Heroku that was listening on the platform event, right? Which is a good demo use case, but maybe not that much real world if you're an enterprise company. So the question is, how can you now leverage that with MQSeries? So what I have here is, I have here an MQSeries server running in Docker because I don't have an on-premises environment. So I just spun up one. And this is now the listening mechanism for my platform event. If I scroll in here, you see that it's listening to bundle submitted __e. So let's see if I can do the same magic as in the keynote. And ta-da! MQSeries listened to the platform event. Prior to that, it was only on the streaming API. Now it was real-time integration between an on-premises system and Salesforce Cloud. This is really nice if you want to, an example, integrate your internal system with data that is created in Salesforce. What you can also do, new since yesterday, because IBM released yesterday MQSeries 904, is that you also can publish platform events from MQSeries. So you have a two-way real-time communication between the Salesforce platform and MQSeries, which is a really powerful tooling. When you take our distributor example that we had in the Node.js app from the keynote, now to an enterprise message queue system. Questions so far? Can you please? Can you go to the mic? Otherwise, the people won't hear it. Sadly.
Am I on? Yes? Okay. Kafka, do you support Kafka in addition to MQSeries?
So the question is, do we support Kafka in addition to MQSeries? So our connection for platform events is via the streaming API. So basically like you subscribe to the /event API. IBM has an offering, the Message Hub, which is a Kafka implementation, which should have the capability, because they have also MQ on the IBM cloud, to connect to their platform events. We don't have currently a direct Kafka integration. The alternative would be to use platform events, high volume, which we're currently piloting on Salesforce. Can I drop a coin? Any questions? Yeah, please for the mic again. So it's recorded so everyone can later enjoy our lovely voices.
So I looked at the example for the federated search.
Yeah.
Can you do the similar kind of integration between Salesforce federated search and say Elasticsearch or other like search providers with the similar kind of OSS?
Yeah, sure. So an example of Solar integration, if you have a Solar server or anything else. So the federated search example that I'm using here with Watson Discovery can be applied technically to any other external data source, because so when you I can look that up here for you. What's basically happening is that so we have a very simple OSS XML definition that points to a query, and which is really simple in this case. And based on the query, two things happen. The Node.js app gets a query, calls then Watson to fetch the data, which is JSON. And in this case, I'm using Mustache, so a template rendering engine. In this very simple example, just passing through all JSON that's coming back, and Mustache automatically renders the XML response for me.
So technically, you can create another integration.
So if you want to connect it to any other REST service, no problem.
Awesome. Yeah.
Right? So you have federated search using direct search capabilities against any REST service. I think the Watson Discovery service is really a good example, but you can do it with every other REST service.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Luciano.
Hey, you mentioned that there were like two ways of integrating with platform events, the ones that Salesforce publish events and other applications listen for those, but how could be the opposite? Other applications sending events and Salesforce getting notice of that.
So the two-way integration that I mentioned is that MQSeries itself has then a built-in capability to write back. To show how that works, someone has to understand how the architecture for all this looks like. So let's see here. And this is basically, it looks a bit complicated. That's why I didn't put it up front, right? So you have on my right side, on your left side, the Salesforce environment. That has platform events, also push topics for the streaming API, and where then the IBM MQ bridge for Salesforce can subscribe to streaming API to platform events and publish that back into their internal queue manager. And any clients that listen in their internal environment and want to publish something to Salesforce can go the same way back.
Okay, so it's like a library within Salesforce that developed by IBM to subscribe.
Exactly. So MQSeries is IBM's large product that's built in for example, WebSphere.
Okay.
Right. You can get it alone, standalone, and any client, any MQ client, is now capable basically to publish data via the bridge to Salesforce through a platform event.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, Barry, not only taking photos, also ask a question.
All right. I have a question around the geolocation.
Yeah.
My company is looking to use Watson for lead generation, getting the leads and the referrals into Salesforce. And one of the biggest use cases that we have a gap for is being able to assign the closest sales rep by location proximity.
Okay.
So that's one of the biggest use cases that I'm finding a gap for. I noticed that you did have an example pulling the geolocation from an account. So I was wondering what the capability would be for a lead, and also being able to find an address for a sales rep if we had that information on their user record.
So you have in your Salesforce org this capability, data integration rules. And there you can add, you can just enable that for those four types of objects: account, contact, and lead. And once you have enabled that, it may take, based on what you currently have in your org as data, it can take a couple of minutes or maybe an hour. And all of those records will be automatically receive their longitude and latitude data. Automatically. And once you update an account or a lead, it will automatically get renewed. So you have all the data directly available for free.
Okay. Now, but that doesn't include the user object, correct?
Right, no, not for the user object.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there is a feature on that. I only know this. There may be some with Service Cloud, but that's not my area.
Okay. All right.
Okay, sorry. Barry.
Let's go back a few years, shall we? What other integrations with IBM World is Salesforce and IBM planning? Let's go back. There's now been a new investment, let's say, in Notes and in other old IBM platforms that could integrate. Is there work going on with that, and where are they?
So there is one more integration available, which formerly known as cast iron, where you can basically connect through their cloud system using the OData for protocol as external object. We are looking into offering more integration capabilities in 2018, as far as I know, using API Connect.
Okay.
Right, so but that's TBD. There may be a slide somewhere which is saying this, more specifically.
I knew cast iron used OData. Is it easy just to translate cast iron out into external objects in Salesforce? Is that pretty easy, or is that more complex?
I don't know, because that's a pure IBM application integration configuration topic, which I haven't
That's fine. That's okay.
explored yet.
Okay. Thanks, Brendan.
Any other questions? So Barry was a closer. That's good. If you have any questions, find me on Twitter. I highly encourage you to go to our developer.salesforce.com.blog. We keep you updated on new things that will be interesting, and also with tutorials around the IBM and Salesforce partnership. Especially in 2018, you can expect a few more things on that. Thank you very much.